had an opportunity at a previous job. I was able to live in Sweden and Norway for a couple of years, and one of the things I learned about Sweden is in the 208 countries in the United Nations, the percentage of countries that have government control of goods and services and the classic, means of production, Sweden ranks 178th. Sweden is one of the least socialist countries on earth. They have the street sweepers are private contractors. The buses are very clean and they're privately owned. And pretty much everything about Sweden is a nanny state. They tell you how big the bus has to be and how big the loaf of bread has to be and how many weeks vacation you get every year. So it got me interested, and I looked up, according to the World Factbook, what countries ought to have the highest percentage of socialism.
We're going to need a question from you, please.
Yeah, well, look as I can. Cuba, North Korea, Venezuela, China, Vietnam, Syria, Belarus, Laos, Zambia, and Turkmenistan. My question is, and the countries that consider themselves constitutionally socialist are Bangladesh, Egypt, India, Libya, Portugal, Sri Lanka, Syria, and Tanzania. My question is, why do socialists always get it wrong? Why is there always socialists become non-democratic? I cannot think of a single democratic socialist country in the world in history. What is it about socialism that always screws up?
Please stop beating our wives.
I'm glad you got that one right.
Why is it since 17...
Okay, we got the question. Thank you, thank you. Okay, please repeat the question and then answer it.
Happy to do it.
Countries that call themselves, yes, the Soviet Union called itself socialist. I don't. There are no countries, I think, that call themselves voluntarist anarchists. So
I'm not asking them.
No, I know, but I'm saying.
Please don't throw it on them. The question
No. What I'm getting at is we are each.
I understand, but my question is for you.
Yes. But what I'm saying, we are each expressing our own philosophies of what they mean by voluntarism, anarchism, what we mean by democratic socialism, and we are not trying to compare that and say, here is our example of what we're talking about. And I'm definitely not going to point to either Cuba or North Korea as an example of what I'm talking about. So Sweden counts for me. It's not even a question of what percentage of the economy is run by the government. It's to what extent does the society as a whole, determine the way things go so that people can live a decent life. And what you're calling a nanny state is Sweden's version of social democracy. And even though it involves a very small percentage of actual government, ownership or running of activity. So I still view Sweden as a nice example of what there ought to be more of here, in terms of low poverty rates, relatively good ratio of the highest 20% earners of the population compared to the lowest 20% earners of the population. Things like that are good. So that is the kind of political philosophy that we're advocating to try to convince people of in this country.
So we're not socialism.
Well, it's what we're calling democratic socialism. And
can I get into? I think that really supports our argument. That is, yes, this is not a totally socialist economy in the sense that government controls and runs everything.
Yeah, they don't consider some parts of it.
Some parts that they do, some parts that they don't. Particularly areas of which primary government involvement in Sweden: education, healthcare, retirement, in many cases transportation, involving subsidies.
All privately run.
Okay, let me just finish. And that, I think, is a good example of what we're talking about, is an empirically grounded sense of realism. If you take a look in Sweden, for example, education, it's guaranteed by government spending to everybody in that society. It's not left up to the individual family by accident of birth, whether you inherited $1 million or not. The government guarantees everybody that right to education. I know there's only one country on earth in which there is no correlation, no relationship between income and your education you attain. Sweden. So we're willing to give the market over where the market does things well. Airlines, fine. Healthcare, education, the very fiber what makes somebody human, the ability to live and have a decent life, should be a collective good produced under democratic conditions and distributed that manner. Now, if you want to talk taxation, we all know Sweden has a hellacious tax level in which that money is taken away from private earners. So if you call that socialism, that's quite socialist.
We've departed completely from socialism.
Not our version.
It seems like you're defining socialism
Maybe,
differently, and,
you know,
and it is
communist
open to
versions, but
interpretation.
not our version.
It is open to interpretation. So